Welcome to the Young Granny Show. I'm your host, Brittany. We're skipping the midlife crisis and diving straight into the cozy world of all things young granny. I will highlight artists and creators who share their passion for slow living, creativity, and the art of a handmade life. So grab your yarn, a cup of tea, and let's get started. Welcome, Alysa, to the Young Granny Show. I'm so thrilled to have you on today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here. I definitely,
Yeah.
yes, resonate with lots of the young granny. That's the
Yes,
vibe.
you sure do. So, if you are not familiar, Alysa is the founder of Fond Regenerative, formerly known as Fond Bone Broth. And you guys have done some rebranding because you've expanded. You're not just bone broth, which is super cool. Let's get started. What do you have in your comfort cup today?
So I am drinking a bone broth latte. It can be fancy, but today it's just pretty standard. I love our fennel and bay leaf bone broth flavor. It's actually my favorite one because although my gut health has come a long way, every once in a while I still can kind of struggle with onions and garlic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love this one. I just warm it up and I do either a stick frother or actually put it in the French press and froth it. And it just has a nice fancy cafe latte mouthfeel and it's just some delicious bone broth. So
Yes, I need
that's
to
what I'm
try that.
sipping.
Yeah, that's awesome. I saw that on your Instagram. It's like I need to try that just to
It's,
change up the mouthfeel a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, makes it
Yeah.
feel fancy, special. So,
Yes. Yes. Well, I'm so excited to have you on today. Most of my listeners, if they've listened to more than one episode, they know that in my comfort cup, every recording is a cup of fond. Um, my go-to is the lemon garlic. That's my It just soothes my soul. I put some sea salt in it when I'm
love
heating it
it.
up, and it's just, oh, it's
Such a
so
good one.
grounding. It is.
Yes, I love that one. That's the one I made the pot pie with today.
Oh, yum. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So, Alysa, I want to start from the very beginning with you. What made you interested in bone broth? How did
yeah.
you get started? Like,
Yeah, it's not every little girl's dream to like go up and start a bone broth company. How did I get here? So I mean, really, Fond was born of need, and I think that's a good place for most things, right? It feels empty and scary, and I was desperately searching for a healing solution, and to have this beautiful thing come from that, that's kind of going to be a pattern of my life in a lot of ways as I share my story. But I was 5 months postpartum. I'd been going to, I knew something was wrong. You can tell when it's just not right. And I had been going to doctors, and after about 4 months, the doctor was like, hey, we just need you to get a little sicker to figure out what's going on. A little
lovely.
sicker, yeah, a little sicker was a lot sicker. And I ended up with an emergency appendectomy, 5 months postpartum. And in the post-op, the surgeon came in and told me, hey, you're going to have your gallbladder out in 3 to 6 months. And so I'm 23 at the time. I just had my first baby. I'm staring a second surgery down. And I was just like, my goodness, what? And so I declined to schedule it, which I think was a really good, as I look back, that's kind of a commitment move to say, hey, I'm at least going to try to find
Hmm.
another way. And so declined scheduling that next procedure and really found a lot of comfort and hope in nourishing traditions. So I'm a big Weston A. Price mama. Read at the time, they didn't have their nourishing broth book out yet. It was literally just nourishing traditions. And I remember reading and just thinking over and over, like, I think bone broth is what's missing from my diet. I think it's what my body needs. And so
Yeah.
I actually went on a 5 week bone broth diet. I created different flavors. I would like journal in my, as I was nursing my baby at 3 in the morning, like different fond cocktails and send pictures to my sister or whatever. And she's like, you're really into this. And my husband was like, you really like this. And it just changed my life. After doing that 5 week bone broth reset, I felt better than I'd felt in my entire life. And
Mm.
when you have an experience like that, you want to share it. Like I knew
Yeah.
this wasn't something special. Like I'd just found something. I felt like I had found a key that could unlock things for other people if they just had it.
Yeah.
And of course, that was in 2013 before really there was a high quality bone broth on shelf, before you had all this education on like what even is bone broth, what's gut
Yeah.
health, how is it foundational. So it was really beautiful to be early to that and to have that personal experience. And then in 2015, I brought 5 like coffee carafes full of bone broth to the farmer's market. And my husband was like, Lord, just don't let her come home crying. Like, just let her sell like 1 jar, And he
Yeah.
came and he picked me up, and I had sold out. I mean, all the jars, all the samples, and this huge smile on my face. And so that was kind of when we knew we were on to something special, because it's one thing to like make it in your house and make it for your
Yep.
family, but
Yep.
it's another thing to bring that offering to total strangers and say, here, let me help nourish you, and for them to
Yeah.
be like, okay, it
Yeah.
was really, I loved that moment. And so that's how we got started. That was the beginning of the journey. We started the company in 2015. So 2 years after that surgery happened, basically, and
Yeah.
it's been a wild ride.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet it's been a wild ride. Many more kids for you. Lots
Yes.
of health stuff. The world looks significantly different than it did back then.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were those first flavors that you
Oh, I
had?
love that you asked that. Yeah. So the first one was the our shiitake and sage. So
Mm,
I really wanted something to help build up my immunity. I
yeah.
really wanted something that could help. I was dealing with some mommy just fog, brain fog, and so
Yeah.
that sage to come in and really help with that. And then the second flavor was the turmeric and cracked pepper.
Mm,
I'm
mm-hmm.
dealing with inflammation post surgery. I want to
Yeah.
have just a tonic, like just a vehicle to get as much curcumin into my system in a bioavailable way, right? And
Yeah.
though, and so the third flavor was that lemon and garlic, your favorite. We
Yep.
used to call it anti-tonic because it was like our antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. Just if I felt even a little bit like I was coming down with something, I would just chug that
Yeah.
because it was such a nourishing and great, kind of prophylactic drink just to
Yeah.
help support the immune system. So, and then the fourth one was the apple cider vinegar and bay leaf. Just if I felt like my digestion needed a little bit of extra support, would do that one. And then the final one was the beet and serrano.
Mm,
So
mm-hmm.
beets are really good, full of nitric oxide, but I'm kind of a picky eater, although that's improved as my gut health has changed. But at the time was still very much a picky eater. And so I'm like, man, how can I get myself to eat beets? And so I would do a bone broth infusion with beets, and then I would do blistered poblanos and serrano
Mm,
peppers. And it was a really delicious taste that really was more the flavor profile of a tomato, and which is like
yeah.
a highly palatable taste. And so it was really yum.
Yeah.
Peppers have a ton of quercetin, and
Yeah.
so when you're doing that with the nitric oxide, again, these beverages, while we don't have like studies to back that they can heal things, and that's not what we're advocating,
Right.
we do know intuitively that there are delicious nourishing ingredients that are going into these tonics, and that your body knows what to do with those.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. That's awesome.
So
Before I forget, I've always been curious, how did the name Fond come about?
yes, so fond means foundation or base in French, and I really wanted to be at the intersection of your culinary and your nutritional life. Again, you have to think, 10 years ago, for a lot of people, like culinary was considered kind of like bad for you foods, right? That was like more
Yeah.
decadent, and things that like you're not supposed to eat, but you're going to
Yeah.
eat them because it's, gastronomic cuisine. And then you have like healthy food being like juicing and green juices that you kind of have to plug your nose to get down. And I was just like,
Yeah.
this is so wrong. Like,
Yeah.
good tasting can be good for you. And I really, bone broth just being the foundational bridge, both of that culinary life and that, think about functional nutrition life, it really bridges both, and it makes your food taste better. It increases the nutrient density of the food that you're making, even if you're making the same recipe and you're replacing it with fond. And so,
Yep.
I really just wanted to do that and build on that solid foundation. And then I think also, bone broth being the foundation of gut health being the foundation of wellness in the body. To me, it just seemed really, and even there's like a lot of thought into our main logo is a diamond, and we really wanted it to feel like the cornerstone, right? It's the cornerstone, the foundation. So that's what fond means.
I love that so much. And I mean, I think that shines so greatly throughout every decision that I've seen that you guys have made. Like the quality of your ingredients and the thought that goes behind where things are sourced and how they live their life and how they are grown. It like you can taste it. My body, I use some other bone broths for like large volume cooking,
Yeah.
and it does not, my body does not respond nearly as well as it does to fond. Like my body, like it's so instantly soothing. Like my cells, it just feels like they're like, yes, when I take my first sip and when I'm eating something or the soup that I've made, like it's so different. And that really speaks to every decision that you guys have made. So you guys, everything's organic. Chicken is pasture raised. Beef comes from regenerative farms. Tell me about all of
Yeah.
that, because that you guys started
Yeah.
doing that early before it was like, it's catching on now. People are kind of
Yeah.
familiar with that because of marketing, but you guys did that a long time ago before it was a thing.
Yeah, so I'm a big Wendell Berry fan, and a lot of people don't know this, but in 2017 we actually won an HEB. So if you're in Texas, HEB is a major grocer here. We
Yep.
won a People's Choice Award in their quest for Texas Best, and in that presentation, I'm trying to educate them as a major retailer on the importance of regenerative agriculture. So
Yeah.
this is a story that we have been like telling for such a long time, and I think it goes to starting from that place of deep need. Like
Yeah.
I was so sick, I could tell the difference between a chicken that was raised the right way and a chicken that was not.
Mm-hmm.
And ground beef that had been raised on a feedlot on grain versus grass-fed and grass-finished beef raised by a local rancher in Hondo, Texas, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
me, being so sick actually gave me a lot of gifts because I was able to really tell the difference. And so then I was like, okay, if we're going to build a company based on this, our sourcing has to be what is going back into the land. And so just to clarify, like we are organic in all of our herbs and our veggie infusions,
Yep.
but we are verified regenerative in our pasture raised chicken and our grass fed and grass finished beef. And the reason that that matters is that every farmer that we work with, the soil inputs have been measured to be verified regenerative. And so it's not just a bandwagon that we jumped on because it was popular. We're like, no, these farmers and ranchers that are working hard to make sure that the inputs are going back into the soil, that we're preserving the microbiome of the soil, that the minerals and the nutrients in the soil are increasing, that's been measured. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm really proud because, it's a process, right? We're not going to be perfect from day one, despite, trying to. We've always wanted fawn to be composted, like the end products.
Yeah.
And finally, this year, we have an approved compost from the processing facility where all of the bones and all of the veggie scraps and everything that is used to make fond truly is going back into the soil.
That's
And so
amazing.
that's like a personal win. It's also, it's like 6 years. It took 6 years to do that. So I think sometimes people don't understand, like, when you're committed to a vision and you go after it and there's nothing that's going to turn you away from it, it doesn't mean it happens within the first 60, 90, 180 days. Like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you're going after these things because you know that it's important and it needs to happen, but it takes a long time. So that's a bit about our sourcing. I love to just give an illustration, like organic. It's about, it is kind of about how it's raised, but it's also what's going on it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
fond is glyphosate free. Every one of our products, the tallows, the lards, the bone broths are lab tested to be glyphosate free. But that's sort of, again, what's sprayed on it. regenerative looks at, okay, how was it raised? What is it giving back? What is the nutrient density of the animal after being raised on regenerative land? And,
Mm-hmm.
I homeschool, so I was recently teaching my kids about like the carbon and nitrogen cycle. And I'm
Yeah.
like, this is regenerative agriculture. like these systems exist and it's a perfect system. And yet, in big agriculture, and I have family members in big ag, and I have a lot of respect for the work ethic. It is still
Yeah.
hard to be a big ag farmer, but we
Yeah.
differ on like the process and how I think things should be done.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when we pump artificial fertilizer like ammonious nitrate into the ground, that can make for mega crop yields, that
Mm-hmm.
can have, but it's exploitive. And that's why I want people
Mm-hmm.
to understand it's exploitive. It leaves that land worse off. So what happens? We have topsoil erosion. The
Mm-hmm.
constant tilling, we're losing topsoil at 5 tons per acre per year. That's a lot. That's a lot. We are, I have friends in this space who are saying we are in a full-on agrarian crisis and no one is listening.
Yeah.
And that's because we're so detached from where our food comes from. And so,
Yeah.
part of our mission also is we only support US farmers. A lot, even people that are using regenerative, grass-fed, grass-finished bones, a lot of times they're sourcing them overseas. So they're sourcing them from New Zealand, Argentina, Venezuela. And we really wanted to support farmers here. For us, that was a personal just, hey, we want to know that we're improving U.S. soil with U.S.
Mm-hmm.
products, that we're making a product here, and that is the best that it can be. And so that's also a differentiator that, for fawn products, everything is sourced and made here.
Yeah. And I can feel it. I can taste it. My body knows that. But I think it's also so special. And you mentioned before the nutrient density.
Yes.
And I've seen some studies come out, you know, a couple hours south of us is Fredericksburg, and there's Rome Ranch,
Yep.
which is a big leader in regenerative farming and ranching. And, they've put out so many wonderful studies. And the nutrient density is one that always takes me by surprise, and then I'm surprised that I'm surprised
Yeah.
about it. But
Yeah.
the nutrient density of their animals and of the soil just exponentially compounds in health every year, and our bodies feel that. And then I think about, like the studies that have come out about like oranges. Have you seen
Yes.
any?
Yes.
That like
Yes.
our grandparents and our great grandparents would eat one orange, and that equals, what was it,
Nine.
nine
Nine.
today? So we have to eat significantly more the quantity of food to equate what used to be just a little bit.
Yeah.
And then your mind spirals and you're like, all right, like we have to eat more, all these things. And that really goes back to the quality of the soil,
Yeah.
which you
Yeah. And
don't.
it's beautiful to see, like, because we've had the other thing, is we're building relationships over years. And so because
Yeah.
we've had a decade, sometimes 6 years, 5 years relationships with these farms, we get to go back and we get to see what their land looks like 1 year,
Yeah.
2 year, 3 year, really cool. 4 year, 5 year, 6 year. I mean, like it is,
Yeah.
it really does compound. It's amazing. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. It's my favorite part to be part of it. Our kids, we brought them with us to visit some of the farms that we support in the Northeast.
Yeah.
And we were playing with the chickens in the fields. I mean, they're so athletic and docile. And you think about the alternative, which was just never going to be an option for me. So I was never going to source from a caged agrarian operation where these chickens are sitting in their own feces. They have ammonia burns on their feet or on their bottoms. They're losing feathers. Their immune systems have plummeted because at the point
Hmm.
where you and I can smell ammonia, it's already too high,
Yeah.
right? For these chickens, it's
Yeah.
already impacting their immune system. And
Yeah.
so we just knew that was never going to be, even if Fond was small for a long time, we were not going to do that. We were not going to be a part of supporting that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. You were steadfast on your mission. That's very respectful, especially when you started. I think part of the reason it's more acceptable now is because of companies like yours that said, no, it's okay. I'm not going to grow as fast. This is my mission. And I'm so thankful for that. We moved to Texas almost 4 years ago, and that was the first place I had seen Fond on the shelves at HEB. And I was so excited to just go to the store. But then it was always sold out. So, like the one time I had gone, it was fully stocked, and then every time I went back, it was sold out, and I loved it. So I always bought it online. But um, so when did you guys pick up making tallow? I think that's a pretty
yes.
natural next step for a bone broth company into a new product line. So tell
Yes.
us about that.
So this is a lesson in first drafts. I wanted to launch tallow in 2019. I begged my team, can we please launch tallow? I had this dream for these infused tallows because again, at Fawn, I'm always going to do the pure and unflavored, but I want to do something with a little bit of whimsy, right?
Yeah.
Like a little, give you some flavor options, help make it fun and delicious. And so I wanted to do it, and we wanted to call it flavored meat butter because we didn't like. There was no, like, people weren't really cooking with tallow. I mean, it
No.
wasn't even really, people didn't know what it really was. And
Yeah.
so I also, it's another lesson in like, I have a great team that was like, hey, this is cool. This is like a not yet. And, so I still have things now that I bring up, that I think are going to be great in the pipeline. And they're a great two hands clapping. So the reality is, this was a product that we waited on. And again, that's the commitment to say, okay, because you have to know, especially when you're a business owner and then now Fond has stakeholders that, we're aligned, but we also are beholden to them with like how we're growing the business. And so it was really interesting to say, okay, now is the time. And so when we decided to launch tallow, we really launched it in earnest last year. And it has just flown. I mean, it's really flown, and it's been really fun to see the rapid growth. And then there are things like that you can't repeat, like RFK cooking his turkey and tallow for
Yep.
Thanksgiving. Like we just,
Yep.
that was fun to be early to that and to be able to do that. But tallow is another one where the sourcing really matters
Yeah.
because fats are protective. I mean, even for you and I, we store toxins in our fat as a way of protecting our vital organs. And so again, our commitment to sourcing was like unwavering because I knew, man, if we're just getting our tallow or our fat from wherever, like who knows what is going to be in this fat. And so
Yeah.
I'm really proud of our product. It's really clean. The lab tests are just awesome for it. And we use it all the time. I even use it in our brownies. I'll do
Yeah.
half coconut oil, half tallow.
Yep.
But it's been fun to see, it's opened us up, I think, also to another customer base. Like not as much as I may want to, Brittany, I don't know if everyone's going to drink a cup of Fond, but they'll probably put tallow on their steak, right? And so that's been really fun to be able to expose a whole new audience to the idea of the nutrient density that comes through regenerative agriculture, the
Yeah.
importance of sourcing, nose to tail, right? Like it
Yeah.
affects every single part of the animal. And so, yeah, it's been a beautiful product to do. We have seen other bone broth companies copy us since we since we did it, but it makes sense. I mean, when you're wanting to
Yes.
use the whole animal,
Yeah.
obviously using the fat is going to be a big part. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And, a lot of people don't realize that in our fat, in animals' fat, it's toxins that are stored, it's hormones that are stored. There's a lot of that is stored in fat, and it's very important.
yeah,
Tallow has gotten a lot of people use it now all the time for their skin care, their hair
yep,
care, their animals, and so it is really important to know the quality and what was in that.
yeah.
before you're all consuming of it, because you don't want all these extra things
Yeah.
that could be
Yeah.
in
I
there.
mean,
Yeah.
you talk about the hormones. It's really interesting, also for how those fats can kind of help us
Yeah.
balance and support our natural process. We had a fond customer who was just rubbing tallow on her thyroid,
Yeah.
and after months, her levels balanced.
Wow.
And she was like, what? And
Yeah.
we were like, huh. And so it's just,
Yeah.
I mean, the body is incredible. It wants to heal. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing where it's like, we feel like our goal is providing you with delicious, nutrient dense, foundational foods that your body knows what to do with.
Yeah.
And we're constantly amazed at what the results are.
Yeah. Yeah. I also, so I think with tallow, and even more so with lard, I think bone broth was like the gateway for me into those things, especially with your products. Um, you grow up in our culture where, like, you've never heard of bone broth, right?
Yeah.
And so that, something happens and you're exposed to it, whether your health plummets or a friend is like, here, try this. And you're like, oh, ugh, bone broth, all right. Or they sneak, like I sneak it into everything. And then I tell my friends and they're like, you made the rice with, with what? I didn't taste it, like, haha. But like tallow, we grew up in an era which I think is shifting of, fats are so bad for you.
Yes.
Fats are going to give you heart attacks, like cut all fat out, cut all cholesterol out, you know. Um, and so I certainly grew up with an idea that things like tallow and lard, like, stay far away from. They're bad for you,
Yeah.
on every level. And so I'm working on reframing that. You guys came out with your tallow, and I allowed myself some time to ruminate on it and think about it, and then bought some because you came out with the rosemary pink peppercorn one, and I'm going through such a huge rosemary thing right now. Rosemary is like speaking to me. So I was like, all right, I'm going to try that one. We're going to cook our steaks with it because we cook it with rosemary. Oh my gosh. My whole family was like, this is a whole new level of steak. We're not using butter anymore. This is amazing. And then I had run out of coconut oil for something that I was baking, and I used the unflavored that I had on hand. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to turn out. And it was amazing. It was amazing. My dog, she eats a freeze-dried food, so she needs a little fat every once in a while to
Yeah.
help balance that out. And I give her the unflavored, and she loves it. And it's way better than the fish oil and stuff that I was giving her. She reacts so much better to it.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Next order I'm going to be getting some of the lard, and again challenging my
Yeah.
thought of lard and learning how to cook with it and stuff, because it's the same, right? And you've got some really fun holiday baking flavor. What is it? The
Yes.
cinnamon.
The cinnamon vanilla. Yep,
Yeah.
cinnamon vanilla. And there's no sweetener in it, and so it's an aromatic, and you're going to taste it in the pastry, but
Yeah.
it's really, really great. And I think, it's true, and I have a lot of sympathy. Like, there are people who talk about the sodium levels in our bone broth, and they literally believe it will give them a heart attack if they consume
Yeah.
that much sodium. And what we believe really matters.
Yeah,
And
it
so
does.
they need to get to a place where they can consume the bone broth without that fear for me to really be able to recommend it to them. And so, and fat's very similar. I mean, I literally had someone say to me, if I eat this, it will clog my arteries. And I was like, it's not going to. And, in my heart, I'm like, it's not going to. But they believe this so strongly
Yeah.
that the way that their body even receives this food is not going to be in a beneficial way. And
Right.
so there is a learning process, and we understand that. And I think, what my husband and I, what really governs it's like if people used to do it that way before industrialized eating, before mass produced mega ultra processed foods, it's probably okay. And you really have to look at the preparing. So like for
Yeah.
us, we kind of have some sort of gluten issues, but it's all in the preparation. Like
Yeah.
if we are using a heritage grain locally, like, we have Barton Springs near us. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so awesome that we have that
Yeah.
Barton Springs mill, and you're able to mill that, and you're able to use it really soon, and you're able to make sourdough bread with it, things like that. Or you soak your pancake dough overnight, and so you're breaking that down and making that more digestible. A lot of it, even beans. Like my family really loves beans. We love lentils, but we're soaking them, we're sprouting them,
Mhm.
we're eating them in an intelligent way where we're going to be able to maximize the nutrient output and absorption in the body. And so, yeah, people are on their own journeys, and I never get offended when they're like, I can't believe you're doing that. When we went to the farmers market in the early days, people would be like, bone broth, why
Yeah.
would you sell that?
Yeah.
And I just had to develop just this really great of like, try it,
Yeah.
just give it a try. And it was really funny. And, you mentioned something earlier that I will never forget, customer after customer. Now across the nation, one of the things that we consistently hear in our reviews is my body knew what to do with this.
Yeah.
And it's cool that people have this understanding of like, oh, my body's really resonating with this. And I think when you talk about, the other thing with regenerative agriculture, with bone broth specifically, there are a lot of benefits of bone broth, but we usually talk about the collagen, the
Mhm.
gelatin,
Mhm.
and that is very true. There's also trace minerals, right, in the bone broth. And that's what our soil has been depleted of through massive agriculture, is that we're depleting the minerals in the soil, and we're depleting the microbiome of the soil. And so one of the reasons that I also think bone broth specifically really helps to smooth out some mineral deficiencies is because you're drinking a mineral rich tonic. It's an electrolyte tonic, it's a mineral rich tonic, and it's helping us with these, just like, we are starved for these
Mhm.
trace minerals that we used to get in our food, to your point, in much higher quantities. And now we'd have to eat 9 times the food in some cases to get the
Mhm.
same amount. And so bone broth becomes a really nice, just sort of multi-purpose tonic to be able to round out some of those things. So,
Yeah.
but yeah.
Yeah. That's one of the things I'm pretty passionate about. You think about like where our water used to come from. It
Mm,
wasn't processed, because there's so many people, and you would get it from your family well or down at the river. How nutritious that water was, how
mm,
dense that was with the minerals that it's flowing over the rocks, and it's getting the fish in it, like all the things, right? The decaying matter that releases so much nutrients that we intake and we drink, and it's live, right? That's a whole
mm.
nother. It's live. um, Even just our water that made the bone broth that they used to make
Yes.
or cook with, like, we don't have that anymore. And my family specifically is so sick. I think they tune me out now. I'm constantly harping on, like, no, like, we all have, I switched my family all to RO water, my parents in California, and, they're all filtered water. And I'm constantly like, they're like putting one drop of minerals. I'm like, no, no, no. You pour as much as you can in there.
Yeah.
And it's like, we don't, and we're seeing such an epidemic of ripple effects
Hmm.
of being so nutrient deficient in
Yeah.
so many areas. And I don't think people truly understand how deep that goes, how much nutrient, our ancestors used to consume, even though they consume significantly less food.
Hmm.
Um, they were far healthier. Their bodies had so much that they needed, and we don't get that anymore. And then our stress that we're under today,
Yeah.
and just the world that we live in depletes it even more. Um, And so it's a tough world for our bodies to live in at the moment, which makes what you guys are making like vital. And I do little intro to bone broth for me. My mom was having health issues similar to what you experienced after your first.
Mm.
And I had known about bone broth but never tried it. We were in California at the time. There was a few that you could buy on the shelves, but they weren't something that I was willing to buy because they weren't organic. And I, having an awareness
Yeah.
of like how important the sourcing would be. I hadn't been introduced to Fond yet, but I had my mom start drinking those anyways, and she kind of was forced because of her health issues going on at the time to have pretty much a bone broth only diet for a couple months and some rice or some, noodles or
Yeah.
whatever with it. And that completely transformed her health. And then we found out about Fond and ordered that online. And but Fond was the first one that like I put into my body, which was amazing. And also ruined all other tasting bone broth for me. Completely did, which I am very actually thankful for. Yeah, so that's a little
I
a
love
little
that
aside.
story.
Yeah.
I love that story because I tell people I usually feel like it's the opposite where we're like I'm like no, trust me, this one's yummy. Like I'm always working from behind,
Yeah.
where I'm like trying to repair a
Yeah.
negative tasting experience or
Yeah.
something. So I love that Fond was your first
Yeah.
experience and you were able to that was good.
And I was nervous, and I think a lot of people
Yeah.
are when they're, which you probably felt the same, and you made
Yeah.
it first, right? Or did you?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
made it. All the flavors I was drinking
Yeah.
them. They were my lifeline.
Yeah. Yeah. So you have experienced Lyme, right?
Yes.
Lyme disease.
Yes.
That came after you had started making Fond, right?
Yes, so we were 4 years in and just had our fourth baby boy. And, it's easier for me to talk about it now for, they always say talk from a scar and not from a wound. And
Mm.
for a while it was too hard to talk about. But I was actually anorexic in my fourth pregnancy. I was so thin. I had that baby in 11 contractions. I
Wow.
mean, it was really, and thankfully, my body did a really good job nourishing the baby,
Yeah.
but I was so depleted after that pregnancy, and things were just again, not right. And pregnancy is a beautiful experience. I personally love being pregnant. I've had positive experiences, but it is highly nutritive. It's a high output, and so
Mm-hmm.
you have to be replenishing. And I just was in such a state. We now know, I had Bartonella co-infection, and Bartonella, often a symptom of that is anorexia.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier to put some of the pieces back together. But so I'm suffering with, I had Lyme, and we would find out later, all 7 co-infections.
Oh my gosh.
And I would have blackout panic attacks. And I couldn't find a trigger. It was almost like I was having seizures. It happened once while I was driving.
Mm.
It was just awful. And so I went to I had a good doctor at the time. It was not a functional doctor, but I had a good doctor. And I was like, and he cared about me.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, okay, we're going to do blood test. We're going to do ultrasound, and we're going to do an x-ray. Everything came back normal.
Yeah.
I'm having blackout panic attacks. I am barely functioning. And he's like, everything's in range.
Yeah.
He was like, you need to go to therapy, was basically what he told me. Which,
Yeah.
I mean, there's totally a place for therapy.
Yeah.
I love it,
Yeah.
but it's like, that was not what was going on.
Right.
So I go a little bit further, it's about 9 months down the road, and he's ordered 2 more sets in this time. The only thing he could do for me is we're going to do an x-ray, we're going to do an ultrasound, and we're going to do blood work.
Mm-hmm.
And I remembered thinking, like, this system is going to fail me. I am going to die in this system because they can't, I'm, my husband was at the point where he was calling the fire department.
Yep.
When I would black out, like he thought I was dying, like there. And my husband is an unshakable man, so it's just they were very severe. So I had to make the conscious decision to opt out of a system that was not serving me, and the only way we found out is I actually had a DNA test done, and they were like, "You have Lyme, and all 7 co-infections."
Wow.
And then we did a bioresonance scan and confirmed the same thing. So things that my blood wasn't showing, it didn't matter, right? My tissues, my DNA, rampant infection. And, you know, the normal course for Lyme is that you go on pretty rigorous antibiotics.
Yeah.
And I'm a student of homeopathy. I don't have a formal license, but that's what I do to care for my family. We've always done homeopathy. I have a vaccine injured sibling. And so, you know, I just grew up in a different, my parents had to opt out of that system early on because it hurt our family. And so I was raised in a different system. I use homeopathy to take care of my children and myself. And even at this point, I was like, I am not going to do an antibiotic. I feel like that would be the worst thing that I could do when I have Lyme disease. I get that it's a bacterial infection. I get that there's, you know, like biofilms. I understand this, but I don't think the right thing is to kill even the good guys in my body, right? I just was like intuitively, I didn't think that was right.
Yeah.
So instead, the things that I did, and you know, it's funny because people are like, you mean you didn't go on like into like a hyperbaric oxygen tape? I mean, it's going to sound like so. I went on an autoimmune protocol diet. So I did not eat eggs. I did not eat milk. I did not eat sugar. I did not eat any of dairy. I just gave my body a break from those inflammatory foods so it could focus on healing. I would do that for 2 years. In the first year, I would be completely symptom free. I had no aches, no pains. I'm not saying I didn't have, I still was healing from Lyme.
Yeah.
But no more blackout panic attacks. I can remember telling my doctor, my sister was getting married at the time, and I can remember telling her, my goal is just to stand through the whole ceremony. I just want to stand through the whole ceremony. I danced at the reception.
That's amazing.
Like, and you know, I didn't go on $10,000 worth of medication. I had the opportunity to do ozone therapy, but I had been following Dr. Jess MD, and she talks, and she talks about the importance of binding and I didn't think my detox pathways were open. I did not think that that would be good. I thought that that would probably hurt me. And so I think, you know, if I could tell people with Lyme disease anything, number one, it's that your body can heal. I would have people tell me to my face, like, oh, I'm so sorry you've been diagnosed with this. You don't heal from Lyme. It stays in your body your whole life. And I remember, like, whether I said it to their face or not, you know, depending on the situation, but in my heart, I would say, no, I'm not going to have this my whole life. So I really tell people of any sort of chronic illness, be really careful what you let people speak over you. Even, well, I mean, they could be grieving. They're saying it out of grief, but it doesn't matter. It's not right.
Right.
And so, secondly, assemble a medical team. Don't get stuck in a system that's not serving you. So I followed Dr. Jess MD. I worked with Ariel Welch, a functional nurse practitioner. She helped me with the bioresonance scans. And then we did cell core products. And so I went through their whole program, and they really start you out with, like, it's also targeting parasites. And I mean, it was so amazing. So we have 4 boys at this point. Jude was the baby that, you know, I was anorexic during that pregnancy and just really had a crash. And everyone told me, you know, you'll never have another baby. And like, to the point where, like, we got this cute little portrait, like this was our family. That's what we thought.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I go on this diet, I go on these protocols, and I have this dream that I'm holding this baby. And I'm like, what? And I kid you not, I get through phase 4 of the Cell Core Biosciences protocol, and I'm having a baby. And we have this beautiful, beautiful, I mean, his name is Happy Laughter, Asher Isaac. I was just like, I was overwhelmed and just overjoyed because the body doesn't get pregnant unless it can do that. Like,
Yeah.
there's,
Yep.
and so it was just a beautiful marker of that. And then, of course, there was, okay, is he going to have Lyme?
Yeah.
Like, what? And so we had to go through. And what was really beautiful is that Lyme did not show up in any of the DNA tests, didn't show up in any of the bioresonance scans. And we felt really safe. I mean, obviously we were going to proceed with the pregnancy anyway. This was a gift. We were so
Yeah.
excited. But it changed okay, I'm not going to be afraid that he's going to have something.
Right.
And we're going to just proceed with like, yay, a celebration and
Yeah.
delight and no. And so it was my easiest, it was a beautiful labor. It was very easy. Had him at the birth center and he is just, to this day, I mean, just a total, just light, laughter, so much fun, such a beautiful marker in my life of,
Yeah.
again, healing from something. And so I just, again, sorry, just to recap for your audience, like number one, be really careful what you let people speak over you. Number two, assemble your own medical team. Don't wait for the system to serve you. It's not going to.
Mm-hmm.
You need to find people and surround yourself with people who understand what you're going through, who have done this before. Dr. Jay Davidson, during that time, I listened to a lot as well. And there's even been more advances with Lyme disease since then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I went on a diet. I went on a targeted protocol with homeopathy, herbs, and supplements, and was completely healed within 3 years. And there are people who have experienced Lyme for 20 years and they don't believe me. And there's also a part where I understand that every body is different. I understand every healing journey is different, but I want people to know I didn't do anything fancy.
Yeah.
And I really just followed what I believed was the right next step. And even if that didn't look like what other people were doing, I had the courage to say, hey, I need to try something else first. And sure, maybe, humility is great. It's always good to be humble.
Yep.
But having the courage to try other things has really served me well, especially with Lyme. So
Yeah. That takes a lot of discernment to pay attention to yourself and to really drop down into your soul and into your cells to figure out what's the outside noise and what is my body trying to tell me in this moment. And that is really difficult in today's world to do, especially when there's fear associated. I'm sure you felt fear in those times. And so I think that's a really important thing to call out that I have seen on your stories, and when you speak about it, that's what I think that's one of the main lessons that I take away, is that's possible. And when you're feeling so terrible, which I'm sure you were, sounds like you were, it's really difficult to consume that information and try to make sense of all of these medical things and what to do. So, surrounding yourself with people that will help you, regardless of what their opinion is, that will help you with what you feel is right for your body. That's really important. So that they can help, they can walk that path with you and help you have that full picture of what you're trying to do, so you can lean on them. Both, personal people like spouses and parents and all that, but also your medical team. But that's very powerful, I think, and I hope it gives people hope. Like, growing up, I had friends with Lyme, and my understanding was that was just something that you lived with. You contracted a disease and it doesn't go away. And, people like you and following Dr. Jess, my understanding of that has changed, especially as, new information comes out about Lyme and co-infections and all that. And it's not something that you have to be stuck with, and it goes beyond just Lyme. There's lots of things out there that it doesn't have to be your identity.
Yeah.
But you also mentioned something earlier that kind of hit me right in the gut that I want to call out, and your sentiment of you were so sick that your body picked up on so many little things, including it was so sensitive that it could tell how an animal was raised when you consumed part of it, and that it was a gift. And I think that reframing, and I say it's reframing because when you're sick and you don't feel good, like, everything kind of feels like a burden. Especially when it can be perceived as limiting. Or I'm, so sensitive, things aren't making me feel good. So it's a reframing to say, no, this is actually a gift. My body is so sensitive that it's able to tell me this isn't good for me.
Yeah.
And if you take a minute to sit with it and try to really understand what that message is. It's not that, a chicken, it's not that I can't consume chicken right now. It's the quality of the chicken. My body is so sensitive to, the stuff that is in that chicken, how that chicken lived, how that chicken died. My body's so sensitive to all of that right now. I need to take extra care of it.
Yeah.
And I think that really hit me. That stayed with me. And I think that is also really important if you're in a place where you're not feeling good for whatever reason, whether it's a cold or something more chronic, like that mindset will take you far. And, you said it before too, when you were talking about somebody who feels like there's too much sodium in the bone broth. If they drink that, it's not going to serve their body like it could if they had a different mindset.
And so we educate on electrolytes. We do our darndest to try to help people reframe and tell the truth, right? Because a lot of these things, sodium, fats, eat all the carbs, avoid all the meat, that served an agenda that lined pockets with money.
Yep.
You always follow the money. And so, it's really interesting because to be on this side, our family, I'll use raw milk as an example because it's still one that not everyone knows what they think about.
Yeah.
So I would bring my own milk to my in-laws' house because I didn't want to drink their raw milk. I didn't think it was safe. And I will never forget, my mother-in-law was so patient. She never once shamed me. She was excited when I tried raw milk for the first time, but she let me get there. And I am so grateful for that. And I will remember that the rest of my life because we've been consuming it for 10 years. It's been a huge blessing to our family. But if I had been coerced, if I've been shamed, why do you think the store-bought milk that's nuked is better than a living food? There was none of that.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful for the respect she had for my journey and where I was at as a young mom trying to figure out. And so, our job is to educate and to get the information out there. We want to nurture you so you can nurture and nourish others. But we are also, we accept that not everyone's at the same place. And, with Lyme disease, one of the things that was really interesting is being healed from that disease, but then dealing with the shock waves of the trauma in my body, even to today, have been really interesting. And so the reframing, there is loss and there is hardship. And like you said, there are days when I'm just I'm still here. But what I have found that has served me well is looking for the blessing in it. I had a speaking engagement on Monday and I'm a runner. I am I love to run. That is how I stress management. I'll Peloton if I, don't have time. But I am a runner and I like high intensity. And then I'm done, right? And it's I've regulated. Well, I had an accident. I rolled my ankle again on the same side. I wasn't able to stress regulate before the speaking engagement on Monday. And so I started getting some adrenaline in my hands before speaking. And my body was like, you're going to have a panic attack and you're going to black out and you're going to do it right
Yeah.
on this stage. Or my brain was saying that.
Right. Right.
And in that moment, just like taking that, believing in neuroplasticity, understanding, okay, I understand why you feel that way. This used to happen to you. But you don't have Lyme disease anymore. And you can handle adrenaline rushes. I know you don't believe me, but you can. And then getting through that moment and then being like, oh, I was able to do that. And I didn't have a blackout panic attack. Right. And so I think there's a lot of gentleness also. Like my husband's always telling me to be easier on myself. I think there's very real, I don't want to understate like the frustration that can happen with chronic illness, but the reframing that you highlighted has become a lifeline for me to kind of look for the blessing in it, or look for how can I see this as an opportunity to reframe, take every thought captive. Where is this coming from? Oh, that's really interesting. It's because I had a traumatic experience in the past and my body is trying to protect me. Let me honor that while also acknowledging that things are not the same that they were then. Because I think when we start to dishonor those voices inside of us that are trying to protect us, that's when you start having some suppressed emotions, right? And then these emotions become trapped in the body and you're like, become just like a tomb for all these unprocessed emotions. It's not what our bodies are supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that's something that, I put into practice, and I have to, fortunately, right? That's the side of the coin. Like I've had to just become good at that because I've had so many experiences that felt scary through Lyme disease, so many that felt just like way out of control, that even though my body's in a different place, my brain or my memories are like, hey, it's just
Yeah.
and then taking the time to reframe that is good. And I think to apply that, we can have habitual attitudes to things even as mothers,
Yep.
as wives, spouses, like to where we are approaching something in the same mindset. And so to just kind of take inventory of that and say, what's driving this? Is that being informed by something that's real, or by something that used to be real, but it's not anymore? And just really like evaluating these things, I think, especially in like instant feedback culture where you can send the comment, block the person, like we're so used to like our first impulse is right and we should act on it, that that's been another gift I would say of that, is just really taking time to reflect and to reason before I react to certain situations.
Yeah. And I mean, even, in your story where your body was like, hey, this is kind of feeling a little bit like it used to, like, and your brain and your body is kind of like, hey, like heads up.
Yeah.
And then, if you don't kind of come at it from a different perspective, that could spiral.
Yep.
But looking at it from like which it sounds like you do, looking at it from a thankful, like, thank you body, thank you brain
Yes.
for protecting me and trying to alert me. But I'm gonna, kind of like a parent child. Like, thank you, I appreciate you bringing that up to me, but now we're wise and we don't deal with that anymore, and this is different, and let's breathe together. We'll get past this, but coming at it from a grateful lens of thank you for trying to protect me.
Yes. Yes. That's so
and,
right.
and that, even that, but that's a really big muscle that I think you probably have gotten pretty good at, but I'm sure the beginning of that was not easy to do and recognize when you needed to. That's something that you build up to. And in the beginning, when you're trying to do that, it takes so much effort and so much energy to first of all recognize it and then to do something about it and do the reframing. Like there's so much that goes into that.
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning, how frequent it is.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm on a journey of that on my end and helping others through that as well. And I want people to know that it's a muscle. It's a muscle that, begins out brand new baby, has never been worked out before, and you're slowly going to build that. And then it's going to
Yes.
become second nature, and you'll be able to kind of look at it from a bird's eye lens right away
Yeah.
and come.
Yeah.
But that's very
That's so
powerful.
good. That's so good. Yeah, it is. It is a muscle. And I love the thankfulness because sometimes I could be like, you know, gosh, why are you always putting me in situations where I have to work this muscle? But it's like because it
Yes,
needs to be worked.
right.
Because
Yeah.
it needs to be worked. And so if you I did not have anxiety. This is what's really interesting. I did not have anxiety when I had Lyme disease. I had it in I developed an anxiety disorder, which I'm still healing from after because of
After,
all
yeah.
the stuff that happened to me in it. So
Right.
it's really interesting is like it was in some ways it was almost easier going through some of the stuff with Lyme because I wasn't always worried it would happen.
Yeah.
Afterwards, I'm like, oh, am I going to pass out this time? Am
Yeah.
I going to black out? Am I
Yeah.
going to faint? Like, what's, am I going to be able to handle this? Or is,
Right.
and so that's some of the, like the other thing that I've become really passionate about, just caring for people and loving them in sort of the journey back from chronic illness. Like,
Yeah.
healing from it is great. And then it's amazing. It's
Yeah.
amazing to be able to be there. And then you've got all this aftermath of surviving it to
Yeah.
move to thriving
Yeah.
that it does feel like work. And you're right. If you start in a place of thankfulness, you get a lot farther. You get a lot farther.
Yeah. Do you feel like, you know, you are a huge part of Fond and running the business and making large choices and dealing with all those things? You're a mother of six young boys, and there's you've got a lot going on. Do you feel like you are able to come at the stressors that comes with all of those roles that you play differently now in a yeah,
Yeah, I think for sure. I think there's the trauma kind of on the personal side and then there's, Fond experienced a fire. We had, just so many issues. We didn't even know if we would come back from that. And so I think there's this muscle, what I think people find as overwhelming. There's actually a lot of crossover, and I say this in being a mom and having empathy for my children and understanding where they're coming from makes me a better boss. It makes me a better leader. Teaching my children lessons, like actual school lessons, yes, lessons, but I mean like actually teaching them school helps me to be able to teach bone broth and tallow better. I'm exercising the muscle of education, making sure it's interesting and I'm keeping
yeah,
people's attention and I'm saying it in a short amount of time. There's so many practical gifts. And then I think there's also, the lessons I had to learn personally with dealing with Lyme disease and then healing from that and then moving on. I was able to recognize in the business when we had a fire and then we're healed from the fire and we fully recover, like 24 months later. And I'm like, oh, this is a trauma response. Oh, I'm worried about something. So I think because life is interconnected, because we are, I do work and I raise my children and I have a body and I have a business. Like I think people would think it's overwhelming, but it's actually just like more areas in which to exercise the muscle, to understand things. We are high capacity people. Before entertainment culture, before like rampant consumerism. I mean, we did a lot. And so I think people, part of their shock is, we're in the car a lot now. We're taking kids to all the sports and activities a lot now. We're watching a lot of TV.
Yeah.
We're not, and I think we've forgotten how much capacity we really do have, how much resilience we really have. And, I don't watch TV because I don't have time, but that means I have time for other things. So I think there's a little bit of that too. I do have a great team, and I think humility is like realizing I need people to help me on the journey, and
Mm-hmm.
finding the right people to do that and taking care of your team when you find them. And I say, I'm a steward of Fawn's treasures, like the money that we receive, the products that
Yeah.
we, and also the talent, like the team that's here. And, I'm responsible for both, not just one side.
Yeah. That's amazing. There's so much beauty in that too. And I homeschool my son as well, and he has the choice to either sit in the room with me when I'm doing my podcast or not, and every single time he's chosen to sit and listen to mama's conversations. And then he'll ask me questions for days after. Be like, do you remember when you like I one of his favorite conversations, I was talking to an herbalist, and he was like, didn't you talk about something called rosemary? Like, yeah, Baba, we did. He's like, tell me about that. And I took him out to the garden and reminded him there's lots of things like that take me by surprise, that I am guessing that you experience to a larger degree, having a large company and a large family, that there's a lot of crossovers between being a business owner and
Yeah.
being a mom. To some extent, you're, as a leader of people, you are also kind of in a mothering role, a nurturing role of people, no matter if you are a man. I see this in my husband with his
Yeah.
employees. You're in a nurturing role, and that, um, yeah, I see, when you spoke about being a mother makes you a better leader and people manager. I saw that in my husband when when we had our son. And the more my son grows, and the lessons that my husband learns as a dad, I see that in his work as well. And vice versa. I think there's things as a people leader that you can bring into your parenting as well. But I think that's pretty special. Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. If people want to get a hold of you
Yes.
specifically, where can they do that?
So I am on Instagram, Alysa Sealand. It's me. I don't, it's me. It's my family, and I love to connect with other mamas there. I post, like this week. I posted, we made little leaf cutouts from potatoes and made a little like leaf craft, and then I'm a gardener. I'm always trying things. I love, obviously my big medium is food, right? I love being an artist through food, but I always say I'm an artist that had to become a business owner because I believed so much in my craft. And so I'm in the garden, I'm dabbling in embroidery or like, whatever flavor of the week. This week I've been doing hand drawn sketches.
Love it.
I'm reading Jane Eyre, so
Oh, yeah.
just like just I love to connect with other mamas doing this too, and I take homeopathy classes with Joette Calabrese. I think she's an amazing resource, and love her gateway classes. So lots of ways to engage with me in the real world.
Yeah, awesome. And you can find Fond in a lot of grocery stores. I know Whole Foods is now carrying your tallow, and they just highlighted that um, as a what do they call it for 2026? Like a
Food trend.
thank
Yep.
you. My gosh,
Yeah. No, you're good.
as a food trend. So sounds like big things are coming your way, and I'm so excited to support that with my
Thank you.
dollars. as I
Thank
purchase
you.
more.
Yes, thank you for being a customer, for believing in our mission. I mean, it means the world, and thank you for having me on today.
Thanks for listening to The Young Granny Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share with your fellow old souls. Until next time, keep embracing your inner granny.